Welcome to Taking Care of Business on News Talk 1180 KERN for the best in Saturday Talk Radio at 1 o'clock and on 1230 KGEO at 10 o'clock Saturday, and for the best in Wednesday Talk Radio on 1410 KERI and now on 1000 KKIM in Albuquerque, New Mexico. Your host is Clay Koerner, and I'm Marty Pay. Hey, Clay, that was a great show last week with Walt Williams.
Walt's an interesting individual, isn't he?
Yes, I love his perspective on the economy and on Obama. He is definitely right on.
And he gave us amnesty.
Yes, he did, which you may need. My family, I don't think so. We were, since my kids are first-generation American, I think that makes me in a little different situation. We also had a great interview with Robin McGarr and Kate Usey from ADAKC, the Alzheimer's Disease Association of Kern County.
Right.
They've got a fundraiser coming up October 24th, and the main speaker is an old friend of ours, Michael Reagan. But today we've got another great show. In the second half, we have Alano Morano to talk about the 60th anniversary of the Korean War armistice. But in the first half, we have a great guest I've been looking forward to talking to, talk show host Vince Coakley. Vince, welcome to Taking Care of Business.
Hey, thanks very much. Good to be here.
You know, it's got to be interesting for you because I know it is for me every time I'm on the other side of the mic as a talk show host. It's a little bit different. You don't. You can kind of relax a little bit. You don't have to worry about the flow or anything. All you got to do is just answer questions.
Yeah, the pressure's off.
Yeah. Yeah. It ain't there. So, Vince, you've got a unique story. Tell us what happened to you in your show a couple of years ago when your contract wasn't renewed in Charlotte, North Carolina.
Well, I want to very carefully say that I don't want to enter into a realm of speculation. I will say this, that the numbers were strong, and in fact, one of the things that really intrigued me is, the station indicated they just want to go a different direction, and the different direction involved bringing on, a couple of talk show hosts that it was just really a dog and pony show is what they followed up with. Interestingly enough, that show was just moved to a different time slot, moved from the 3 to 6 to the 6 to 9 time slot because it wasn't working for them. The amazing thing is we had numbers on that show that were rivaling the numbers for Rush Limbaugh. I mean, they were that close. And what's interesting, this is what really got me, is maybe a month or two out, I got a call, an email actually from someone at the station indicating, oh, by the way, your last measuring period you were here, you reached your bonus guidelines, so we have a bonus for you. Oh. So it just really blew my mind because the numbers are there. And I'm sure there are other things that could be discussed, but I'm just of the belief, and this is what I think we have to. Those of us who are conservative, I put a bigger description on this, liberty-minded. I think it comes down to this: we have got to recognize that the system is not going to help us. That if we want to make this talk radio thing work increasingly, I think we're going to have to start thinking about owning radio stations, being involved in some way in media management and ownership, so that we aren't basically bullied around and tossed around at the whim of people in broadcasting who may be driven by another agenda. Now, Vince, let me best I can describe it.
Okay, let me. I know we're treading on a little bit of thin ice here, but was the Dog and Pony show that you were replaced with a liberal program?
Yes, as I understand it, both guys voted for Obama.
Okay, and
it's not just and to understand this isn't just a matter to me of politics. This is a matter of the seriousness of our situation, where we are as a country, and yes, I get entertainment and I get that, and yet at the same time, this was a joke to me. This program was an insult to people's intelligence, and I still get emails and messages on my Facebook fan page questioning. What's intriguing about this too? When I first started, there were people who said all along, "So Vince, you're not going to be here for the Democratic National Convention. And interestingly enough, they turned out to be right. I wouldn't say I was naive. I would say that, I didn't really think about it in those terms. And I certainly didn't want to think of it in political terms. As to whether that had anything to do with it, I don't know. But I do know that, a decision was made, and, I respect their decision. And, and I want to really make a positive out of that, which is I don't want to put myself ever again in a situation where I will be beholden to the whims of people who I don't think are really motivated by the public interest, which broadcasting is supposed to be for.
Sure. Our guest by phone, talk show host Vince Coakley. So, Vince, let me just state the facts, okay? The fact is, you're conservative, obviously, libertarian a little bit, and you were replaced by another show that was more liberal leaning, and the ownership of the station you worked for was liberal. Would those be correct statements?
I don't know that I can characterize it that way. It was kind of interesting because later on I had in fact, a person that I know who did a story on this, and he ultimately revealed that one of the top leaders of the company that I worked for had a meeting like a couple of months before in the White House. Is that intriguing? Of course it is. You can do whatever you want with that, but I don't have any idea in my mind that a lot of these people who are progressives, they're very well connected. They've got an agenda, and they pursue that agenda. So I don't know what else to say about that.
Vince, this is Clay. I want to touch on a few things you said. One thing you said was that they wanted to go in a different direction. It's interesting, when I was in college, the girls used to tell me that all the time.
Well, look, I'll tell you what, Vince, looking at Clay now, I can understand that.
And the second thing you mentioned was you qualified for a bonus, and I was going to ask Marty, who do we talk to about a bonus?
Yeah, exactly. Go figure, huh?
Well, 100% of nothing is nothing, Clay. So.
And the third thing you brought up was, we need the conservatives need to own their own radio stations, and Glenn Beck is a prime example of what he's been doing with his station.
I have a great deal of admiration for Glenn Beck, and quite honestly, it's a model of what I hope to be able to accomplish on some level, maybe not on the same scale, but if you listen to him tell his story about what happened at Fox, it's really the same kind of thing in the sense that, now let me say this. What was really intriguing was even the conversation leaving. They were very clear in saying to me, "Look, you've done everything we've asked you to do." There was no dissatisfaction with my work or anything like that. In Glenn's case, there was, he communicated there were pressures to not do certain stories, to not talk about certain subjects. And again, I admire what he did because basically he said, you know what? I'm going to go back. I'm going to start with the internet. I'm going to build something there. And now he's back on, cable systems, on Dish. In fact, for me, we switched to Dish just so we could pick up his show. So, it takes people out there who dare to step out in faith and create something. And I think this is part of what we've got to do. I think he's an example of the kind of initiative we've got to show in the liberty movement.
It's interesting, yet every liberal station or every liberal commentator fails.
Isn't that intriguing?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, it tells you something because it's really it doesn't pay. It doesn't work. I mean, can you show me where Air America is now?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, where
definitely.
is Air America?
It's in the cloud.
Yeah. Yeah, it's crazy. I was a little surprised, reading your story. As you and I talked before, I've got family in Charlotte, but I was a little surprised because I just assumed that area is a lot more conservative than that, and that, especially with you having rush numbers, I mean, that's fantastic. That, there'd be a groundswell to keep you there.
There was. But ultimately, when you have a corporate decision that's made, a corporate decision is a corporate decision. And they may or may not be sensitive to what the listeners are communicating. And you hear something that's important to consider, too. This is kind of a new subject that just now on my radar screen. I think we've kind of seen this, but I think we have got to identify this a little more clearly and figure out a strategy to fight back. I think that progressives right now are targeting our cities. Let me give an example of what happened last year, for instance. We had here Amendment 1, which was to define marriage as between a man and a woman. That's a really radical idea.
Vince, can we do this?
Well,
let's break for a second, and that's a perfect place to pick up when we come back, okay?
Okay, let's do it.
Okay, we'll be back in a moment on Taking Care of Business on Koerner Radio News Talk 1180.